This is just organized mess. Hello and welcome to the stream. I am Robbie Rigel, and welcome to episode 4 of the Home Lab stream. A little bit of housekeeping real quick. Last episode will be out on YouTube shortly. I have to do some editing to it. And I forgot that I use DaVinci Resolve as my editor, and it doesn't like the codec that the audio codec that Twitch uses. So I have to solve that problem. Anyways, we're going to have some fun today. In the previous episodes, we set up basically a standard empty Windows Active Directory network. So we do git AD domain controller filter star. We got 3 domain controllers running here. Now, our initial plan calls for basically everything to. This is how we want to have it set up here. So we got domain controller 1. Domain controller 1 is going to be our RID master and our global catalog server. Domain controller 2 is going to be our infrastructure master and our domain naming master. And domain controller 3 is going to be our primary domain controller emulator and our schema master. So real quick review on FSMO roles. So RID master is the relative ID numbers, or the SID numbers that Windows uses. Basically, it's the key ID in Active Directory, in the Active Directory database, because of everything in Active Directory here. Like let's just do git AD computer Vega. This is a laptop I added to the domain yesterday, actually here. So you've got this object GUID or GUID, as I discovered that the Microsoft people call it. It took me like a minute or two to figure out what they were calling when they kept calling something a GUID. But anyways, I'm like, it was like, are they like referring to GUI in some way? Anyways, so this is their GUID. This doesn't change, and neither does this. This number here is what the RID master controls. It basically says, hey, domain controller 1, you currently have 1601 through 1699. Hey, domain controller 2, you have 1701 through 1799. And let me know when you run out. So that's what that domain controller does. I've been trying to catch the stream for a bit, but I've always seemed to get busy on Sundays. Oh, by the way, I am changing stream times here. Thank you, Mr. Potshot1, for tuning into the stream. Again, if you have any questions or you want me to further explain anything, just mention it in chat. As I say at the beginning of every chat, this is going to be a learning experience for all of us, including myself. So yeah, don't worry about asking a question or anything like that. I'm just a normal, maybe not normal computer user, but I'm just a normal advanced computer user like the rest of us out there, and who love playing with this stuff. I'm excited to play with it, and I want to share playing with this stuff with all of you out there on the internet. So anyways, going back here, so quick, so all of our SID numbers are going to be handed out by DCO1 here. And this guy is going to be our global catalog. Now, the global catalog server has a copy of the database from all over the Active Directory forest. So you've got, your big picture is an Active Directory forest can contain many domains. And actually, I probably will be adding like 2 semi-production domains to this, at least one. I've got a couple places that I volunteer for. I have a radio station that I'm volunteering for, and we bought the same network equipment. Oh, and yeah, coming up soon on the stream, I got some. I left it on the table over there. I got some Ubiquity equipment in, and it's sitting like just outside of my hand's reach, to where I have to stand up and get it. But I got some Ubiquity equipment in, and so we're going to configure. We're going to lock this down. We're going to do VLAN. We're going to do the whole VLAN thing and everything, and set up this network like a real network here. So during last stream, Domain Controller 2, we gave it the role of infrastructure master, because when you create your first domain controller, it's everything. It has every single FSMO role. And in case one of these goes down in a production environment, you want these roles to be split out. In case one of them goes down, and you need your network to operate for whatever reason. And these would be on, of course, in a production environment, these would be on separate hardware. As of right now, these are all on one machine right now. So during the last stream, we we handed off the FSMO roles to Domain Controller 2, the infrastructure master and the domain naming master. Again, infrastructure master keeps track of external objects to the domain. Now, one of the things that someone with a keen eye may have noticed here, if we go back over here and we do get AD domain controller, and we tell it we want bworld DCO2, over here where it says somewhere is global catalog. That is true. That is a mistake. That is an error that I did, because when you do add or install, hold on, git. I saw a couple of. I watched a couple of PowerShell videos. Domain controllers is probably not plural. I watched a couple of PowerShell videos on Microsoft's website, and it's good when you see the inventor of PowerShell, the guy who created PowerShell, is responsible for it today, having to do can't remember the command names either. And he basically said, hey, I can never remember these commands, so I created a help system. And that's what we're doing here. So the command install ADDS domain controller, its default is to include a global catalog. So I didn't tell it not to include a global catalog when I created domain controller 2. So we have to fix that. And I actually spent some time going down a hole and researching that. And we will fix that later in the stream. And then also here, right now, Domain Controller 3 is just a regular domain controller. It doesn't have any special roles, but we will be passing off. We'll do that now. We'll hand off some roles to it, and then we will get into what it means to be a primary domain controller emulator. The schema master. So the roles here in red that I've highlighted in red here, these are forest. These are roles unique to the forest. So there's only one of them per forest here. So the schema master keeps track of the schema for the entire domain, all domain objects, or excuse me, for the entire forest. Keeps track of the Active Directory structure for the entire forest. So you want to make a change to another domain, you need your schema master online, and all those requests go through it. Same thing with the domain naming master. That makes sure that basically I'm not going to create another, ugn.bobby'sworld.org domain. And then we're going to get into time. The official time coordinator of your network is your primary domain controller emulator. And so the primary domain controller emulator is, again, back in the early days of Active Directory, there was a primary domain controller, and it was the king of domain. They did not separate out these FSMO roles. And so if the primary domain controller went down in your network, you had problems. And really nothing, like password changes couldn't get done and all sorts of other things here. So if like a legacy application is looking for the primary domain controller, this is what this basically emulates. And it is also where all password changes originate. So whenever a user resets their password, they go through domain controller 3, or they will be going through domain controller 3. They go through the PDC emulator. And anytime you mistype your password, all other domain controllers in that domain will double check with the PDC emulator to make sure you haven't changed your password recently. And of course, it is the official timekeeper. And we'll get into like Stratum 1, Stratum 0 time sources and everything like that. But real quick here, so let's use the help system here. Git command, and I think it's master. Here we go. Yeah. So again, no way on earth I'm going to remember move Active Directory server operations master role command. Yeah, there's no way I could do that. But this is what we used. This is what you use in PowerShell to seize, or excuse me, to move or seize FSMO roles. So now the difference between moving or transferring FSMO roles and seizing here is, let's say I needed to. Well, okay. So right now, domain controller number 1 is the primary domain controller emulator. I needed to do a password change. Domain controller 1 is down. It's on fire. It's in flames. Everyone's trying to figure out what's worth it. But in the meantime, the rest of the company needs to operate here. People need to change their passwords. People need you need a primary domain controller emulator. So if this guy is unavailable here, then you seize the roles. And in PowerShell, that's really easy. You just add the word force to the end of it here. So we'll pull up the man page here. ADDIR directory server operation master role here. And again, it's for something as serious as moving FSMO roles. It's a very simple job here. It's a very simple command here. So we're going to do move Active Directory. So we're going to do the move FSMO role here command, and the identity we're moving it to is bworld-dc03, and we are going to give it the operations master role of PDC Emulator, and we are going to do what are we going to do? It's schema master. Comma, schema master. So now again, if now we're just transferring FSMO roles here. So domain controller 1 is up and going. So it's going to. Oh, one other thing I want to do here before we do this here, I downloaded a couple things here. I downloaded Microsoft Message Analyzer and Wireshark. So Wireshark, is basically your primary networking troubleshooting tool. It will give you the raw ones and zeros off your network card. Microsoft Message Analyzer, for capturing network traffic, has some steps to go against. It has some steps to catch up to Wireshark, but it can do so much more. So like if you've ever had problems troubleshooting printers or anything like that, you can get in to like some of the actual key Windows systems and get like all this verbose and debugging information here. But what we're going to do here is, and the awesome thing about Microsoft Message Analyzer is, let's say you have an end user who's having problems, or they're like, and you're like, okay, well, hold on, let me install Microsoft Message Analyzer and log onto your computer. So with Microsoft Message Analyzer, if they are running Windows 8.1 or higher, So Windows 7, you can't do this. But if they are running Windows 8.1 or higher, you can do a remote session trace. So let's say hypothetically, I wanted to capture the network traffic on someone else's computer, and I had the proper roles and permissions to do that. I can do it right from my computer, and I'm not bothering the end user at all. And that's what I use it for a lot. But you can do much more in-depth analysis on Wireshark here. But I'm just going to go ahead here. I'm going to start a local trace here. And because and this is going to start capturing all the network traffic here that is hitting the network card on this domain controller here. There's going to be a few Windows kernel messages that pop up anytime you start a local session. Why it's not showing any network traffic, right? Oh, there we go. There's an ARP request here. Okay, all right. So it's doing that. So we're going to minimize that, and we're going to let it do its thing. We're going to let it capture some things because I want to see if we can pull the network capture of what happens in Active Directory when you transfer a FSMO role. Did I do this on the right computer? Yeah, I did this on. Why is it not? Why are you not minimizing? All right, well, we'll just maximize over that. All right, so, and again, if we were seizing roles, all we would do is add the word force to it. But we're not seizing, we're just transferring. All right, so we're going to go ahead and press Enter. And it didn't like that, of course, because I misspelled my own domain controller. B-word, W-O-R-L-D. There we go. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to move the PDC emulator? And I'm going to tell it yes. Then it's going to say, are you sure you want to use the move master operations role? And I'm going to tell it yes. And that's it. It's done. That's all it's done. And while it's capturing packets here, we'll go ahead and we'll stop the packet capture here on Microsoft Message Analyzer here. We'll stop that, and I will post this up to the GitHub page. Oh, I forgot to do this again. Start transcript. All right, and I'm also when I remember to start the transcript, I'll post the transcript of everything I do on my GitHub page here. So any script or anything that I do, I just put it in the lower right-hand corner there. Right there. Any script or anything that I do on the stream, I'm posting to my GitHub page there, Robbie Rigel /HomeLab stream. And so these PowerShell, what I'm doing is this transcript here, it's copying all the information. It's going to basically put everything that I do to a text file. So here, let's even do this command again, even though it's already done. And I'm just going to tell it A. It just copied all of that to a text file, which I'll upload here. And then I will upload this guy here to the GitHub page also, if you want to look at it and peruse it yourself. Actually, now that I think about it, there might be stuff I don't want to put on the internet on here because this is a network capture, because this probably has IP addresses here. But anyways, here. If you're familiar with Wireshark, this should look somewhat familiar to you. You've got your ARP request here. We've got UDP packets, ICMP v6 stuff here. So we've got, you can see a link local here. You've got your standard ICMVP router advertisement. Let's see here. This is another ARP. So this is an ARP request here for domain controller 3. Here, let's use the magnifier so you guys can actually see what's going on down here. So there's a little window down here that spits out all the information. And again, like Wireshark, you can continually drill down. And if Microsoft knows more than Wireshark does about a particular protocol, like if it's a specific Windows protocol, you'll be able to drill down even further than you would Wireshark, which is kind of cool. But it's kind of like use the best tool for the job here. So we've got a TLS message here from my domain controller 3. Let's see here. There should be something here marked LDAP, I would imagine. Something here is marked LDAP. ARP, a lot of ARP requests on my network. UDP, ARP, Ethernet. It's going to be towards the, let me scroll down over here to the bottom. Sorry for those of you who are watching this in a dark, or who are using this in a dark environment. We'll just scroll down here all the way down here to the end. Let me just zoom back out so I can scroll down faster here. All right, so I stopped it. There's a couple Windows traces from me stopping it. I'll zoom in if I find an LDAP setting or something here. Oh, here we go. DRSR here. Okay, this is that stands for Directory Replication Services something. Okay, so this is probably the beginning of it here. So right here, so our two domain controllers here talk to each other here, and it's not telling me too much here. Is this encrypted MSR? So it sent out a Microsoft remote procedure call, and it's dividing the two conversations here together. One of them is from server A, one of them's from server B here. I'm not seeing anything too interesting here. Oh, it's encrypted. That's why. Well, that's good. You want your Active Directory replication to be encrypted. So that's why we can't read it. So here, I'll zoom in here so you can see what I'm looking at here. Oops. Zoomed in a little bit too much. But anyways here, so the protocol here that it's using is DRSR. One of the nice things also about Microsoft Message Analyzer is if you have the certificates for both servers, the private or the private key of both servers. So you'd have to download it and transfer it over and stuff like that. You can unencrypt the data on it. I'd want to practice doing that a few times before I try doing that on stream. But yeah, so you get a chance to unencrypt that. And so to help you debug things even further. So that's a nice little advantage here. But basically here, so what happened is I made a change to the Active Directory, and it replicated it out to Domain Controller 3. And my guess is there was also a conversation between Domain Controller 2 and Domain Controller 3 that basically said, yeah, here's more conversations here, MS. So yeah, here we know there was we replicated it from Domain Controller 2 here. So it looks like there was a couple of Microsoft remote procedure calls, remote procedure call protocol extension. So if you hover over it here, it'll tell you Directory Replication Services Remote Protocol. So yeah, and all that stuff, of course, you can pull up on the big manuals that make Active Directory here. There's a couple of them here. But getting into our next problem here that we created, that I created. I'm not gonna blame the rest of you people here on this. So here, I'll save. You know what? I'm debating now whether or not I want to save this. I don't think there's anything here because like my I don't think it's. I'm gonna search for my like external IP address here. I'd hate to get DDoS as a result of doing this stream. Before if I feel comfortable posting this on the internet. Maybe I'll post a subsection of it here and export it, so that way I don't have to worry about the whole thing here. But yeah. Oh, here's another. Here's another LDAP call. Yeah, here's more LDAP calls here. We hover over it. Connectionless lightweight directory access protocol here. That's weird that it's using lightweight directory. Or no, wait, yeah, duh. Sorry, I was thinking of the other kind of lightweight directory services. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and minimize this before I tuck myself into a corner again. Okay, so moving along here. So we transferred FSMO roles to domain controller 3 here. And then if you ever want to see on the Active Directory commands, apparently that's not an option in the Active Directory domain controller command. In most of the Active Directory commandlets, there's a flag here for properties, where you can list what Active Directory properties you want to list, because by default, PowerShell doesn't pull up every single Active Directory property. Doing that won't pull up every single Active Directory property in most circumstances here. Anyways, so here we've got everything here, and it should say somewhere on here, my FSMO roles. Maybe not in all this list here. Oh yeah, here we are, operations master roles. It is now our schema master and our PDC emulator. So the most important thing that a PDC emulator does in a modern network environment is it controls time. And time is very important in a production network here. Because when you're dealing with logs, when you're dealing with any kind of network devices here, let's say something happens on your network. And you're like, okay, someone got a crypto locker on their network, and you want to see the progression of things, you want to see the progression of how fast things got on your network here. So you want your time to be as accurate as possible. Now, if you're a bank, or some a larger institution here, you're going to have your own time server that connects directly to most of them that I've seen. You're going to connect directly to the global positioning satellite system. Now, each global positioning satellite server has an atomic clock on it, and so all of those have to have the exact same time. I work in aviation. All of our aircraft get their master time from the global positioning satellite network. However, and there's devices that you can get on the internet. You can get like a cheapo, like $300 item, like $250 item, or like the real ones that the real people use. Those are thousands of dollars, and they do things like they'll pass security certificates and authentication to say, yes, I am this server. This is the official time here. So what time do my computers think they are? So there is no real, the PowerShell command for getting time is get date here. But that's going to dumb it down here. So if I do time equals get date here. Now, let's see here. If I do time and I pipe that to get member here, what do I want? We want lots of method here. I want like the ticks here. That's what I want. All right, so I forget exactly how Microsoft does it here. But they don't use Unix time. Like, Unix time is the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. And Windows does it to like January 1st, 1600 for whatever reason. I'm sure people at Microsoft have a reason why. If you know the reason why, please let me know, because I don't. It seems like a weird reason to do it, but it seems like a weird methodology, but I'm sure Microsoft has their reasons here. But we are coming up on the Unix epoch, where if your time is stored as a 32-bit integer, it's going to flip to a negative number, which if you've got a really old like banking computer system, that only stored it in a 32-bit integer, you're going to have a problem. But that's more of a C programming issue here. We're going to move the conversation here back to Microsoft here. So this is the actual time here. And if I keep doing this, we'll do get-time. And we want ticks. All right. I didn't like that. Do I have to do this? Oh, that's right, because I'm using the wrong command. It's not get time, it's get date, Rob. There we go. So you notice here that it's moving along. It's counting up. It's doing this, it's being a very accurate thing. It's counting to a very accurate process. And when you have something like a crypto locker going through, you want all of your computers to be on a very similar time here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a variable here called computers. And I'm going to make that equal here to bworld-dc01, quotes Rob, bworld-dc02. You see a pattern here, comma, quote, bworld-dc03. And then we're going to also do Orion, which is the name of my Hyper-V host. So we're going to store that in here. And so we're going to do invoke command. And for computer name, we will use our variable computers. And then script. We're going to do script block. And we're going to do the exact same command we did before here, except correctly. Get date and dot ticks. Close script block. And now, of course, everything's going to be really different here. You're not going to get all of them to be the exact same time because it's calling out to the network and doing stuff back and forth. But you can see here, there's some pretty decent variance here by, by a couple of times here. So here, let's repeat the command here, and let's do milliseconds. And that's how many milliseconds we're off here. And as something is propagating through your network, those milliseconds can matter. So to figure out, did it wind up on this computer first? Did it infect this file first here? So while you're never going to get all four of these numbers here, you're never going to get all four of these here to match ever. We can do the best we can. Now, the best way you can do here is use what's called the Stratum 0 time source. And a Stratum 0 time source is an actual physical counting device. That is, an atomic clock if you happen to be the U.S. Naval Observatory, or an atomic clock in an atomic clock, if you have direct access to a global positioning satellite. So then it adds up here. So if I do it is w32 time / query / status. So this is an old school command line tool here for querying your time here and where its sources are here. So it's saying right now that this computer is a Stratum 1 time source. It is allegedly synced by a radio clock, which I can tell you that's not correct. Because if I do the same thing here, on Orion, computer name, script block. It's not going to like that space. All right. It's going to say that it's going to say Orion is a Stratum 0 time source. It's not. I can guarantee you that right now. And right here it says free running, and it says right here the source is free running system clock. So yeah, I can probably guarantee you that box, it's basically using the BIOS time on this, and then it's propagating that through the rest of my VMs here. Because if you notice here, it's using a VMIC time synchronization provider. It's basically getting the time from it's using, the stuff of the Hyper-V. It's basically it's getting its time from the Hyper-V host. And I'll be honest with you, this computer, the server that I have this running on, is not a precision computer. It's not pulling its time from it's not a true Stratum 0 time source here. So we want to use it as a so we want to configure so we want to get the most accurate time possible on here. So what we're going to do is, because I'm in the United States, as a taxpayer, I get some services for free. And not that diagram, we want over here. I get some services for free here. The U.S. Naval Oceanic Observatory here, which is over here at I'll post this URL here in chat for everyone here to view. That is the U.S. Naval Observatory's Eastern Time Zone. They're NTP servers here. So they'll say right here, these are Stratum 1 time servers here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to turn our primary domain controller into a Stratum 2 time server here. Again, because I'm not directly plugging in to an atomic clock here. The best I can do is use a Stratum 1 time server here. And there's also websites out there that offer other open Stratum 1 time servers. I think it's something like time. What was it here? It's something like ntptime.org. I was Googling it a couple of times here. Here, Stratum 1 time source. And these are the little like the $300 GPS time servers I was talking about. These guys limited in functionality. Obviously, the $300 ones, but like the bigger ones here, they're what your banks and your larger applications are doing here. Here we go. Support.ntp.org is the website, and depending on what country you're in. Great Britain here is one operated by Westspeed Welshpool Limited, whoever that is. I don't know. Anyways, but we're going to be using the U.S. Naval Observatories here. We're going to be using their Eastern Time Zone one, which is open to the Eastern time zone and the Central time zone. The Western time zone, or the Mountain time zone, is open up to the Western and the Pacific time zone. And I would imagine also the Aleutian and the Hawaiian time zone. And then, of course, there's a special one for DoD customers, of which I am not. At least this stream is not. Here. So, so it's very simple. It's talk.uso.navy.mil and talk.uso.navy.mil. So there's two ways we can go about, well, there's multiple ways we can do about setting time settings throughout our network. We can do one of two ways. We can use a GPO here. PowerShell is very limited with its group policies, with handling of group policies. Yeah, it's not liking that. It wants an actual GUID here. It's very limited in its actual group policies here. Let's see, git command module group group policy. So yeah, I mean, it's very limited because GPOs are kind of, there's some of them are just like pure binary depending on what they're doing. Other ones are registry. So if we're setting a particular registry value, you can create a GPO that does that. You can create a blank GPO. You can create a new starter GPO. You can link your GPOs, but it's still kind of limited. You still kind of have to go through the GPO registry for some of these things, and if and you're less likely to mess up. I think I still have this. I probably have closed a window since then. You're probably less likely to mess up like a registry link also if you go through the actual GPO thing here. But we can create a new GPO through PowerShell here, a new GPO, and we're going to call this. I like to kind of create like a broad. When I'm naming my GPOs, I like to create kind of like a broad, like category here. So if you're going to like a list of GPOs, well, what does this do here? Time, and we're going to set NTP for PDC. That's what we're going to call this GPO here, and it's going to go ahead and turn. It's going to, and basically all it's doing is it's just creating that GPO here. Maybe in another stream I'll kind of get into. And then there's another way you can set network-wide settings here, and it's kind of like the newer way Microsoft is doing things. And it is called DSC, which stands for Desired. Git command module, or the module's name is PS Desired, or do they just call it DSC? Well, okay, one of the commands is like git DSC resource here, and that's in PS desired state. So git command module PS desired state configuration. Maybe it wasn't loaded at the time, that's why I couldn't auto tab here. But desired state configuration is not necessarily a replacement for GPOs. You can use them instead of group policy, but it can do so much more. It is a much more powerful tool. And I could see if you're in a situation where some people are using DSC and some people are using group policy, I could see a situation where like things could conflict, and every time like GP update gets ran, DSC kind of resets it. Maybe we can try to create maybe we'll create that in our lab here just to kind of see what happens. So that'd be kind of interesting to see what happens. And this way, again, I was watching a bunch of videos with the guy who created PowerShell, and he's like, I always make it. One of the things he says is, I always make an effort to introduce my own errors on purpose, so I can identify those errors when I see them further down the line here. But so and a couple and two other bonuses with DSC is A, you don't need Active Directory to use desired state configuration. You do need so if you want to make sure mom's computer has a bunch of settings, you can use desired state configuration for that. If you want to make sure, if you've got like a small organization and you're like, I'm not going to set up Active Directory just to make sure all these computers are running correctly, like campaigns I volunteered for, and in the United States, political campaigns and computer security are kind of a hot topic right now. You want to, if let's say you're volunteering for a couple of political campaigns out there, being like computer support, which I've done in the past, DSC is a great way to make sure laptops and stuff like that out there are configured and secured, and if Jamie leaves like a laptop lying around at a coffee shop, you don't have to worry about that getting stolen or hacked and all your stuff being stolen like that here. But basically, DSC also is usable through Linux. So you can, and it's basically designed, the way Microsoft designed DSC is to be A, used with PowerShell, and B, to be universal through any computer system. If you want you can add it to any of your Linux distributions. There might even be some Cisco configurations that you might be able to do it out there. You can do. I saw some VMware stuff out there here. So if I can do so the way we would set time through DSC here is we would do get DSC resource. And what this is going to do is these are all of the DSC resources that are installed on this computer here, and you would use the registry DSC resource and set it with and set that manually here. With that, but getting DSC kind of set up and going, that's a stream in of itself. That might be a couple streams in and of itself. So we'll hold on to that here for a second. So are there any questions here? We're about a little bit of an hour into the stream here, 15 minutes into the stream here. Any questions about time? I know this is super exciting stuff here. I probably have dropped all my viewers, maybe. I don't know. Maybe some of you are interested in like Stratum time sources. I learned about it in depth in a network security class I took, and I was like, this is cool stuff. And I was like the only one who was in it who was like, yeah, Rob, no, it's not. Hold on, I am in, which computer did I just hit the Windows key into here? Group policy here. So we want the group policy control panel here. And, this is local group policy. Are you telling me? Or is this just... That was local group. R is a G, P O. All right. This is Windows search, not helping me out here. DNS, just clean up group policy management. There we go here. So the group policy, can I do control plus? No. Some Microsoft things you can do control plus to zoom in, but you're not doing that here. So one of the nice things about creating a brand new Active Directory is that it's nice and clean. We should only have 2 GPOs in effect right here. So here, I'll zoom in here so people can see it here. I should only have 2 group policies in effect right now. The default domain group policy and the default domain controller policy. Let's move you over here. And the default... Come on. Oh, God. Don't show this message again. I know what... because I clicked on a GPO, it's like, you'll edit everywhere this GPO is linked here. And again, GPOs have always been notorious. They always have. So watch out for that. And then, of course, our second, our second group policy is the default domain controller policy. Nothing else is in effect. Like, GPO has been around for, I want to say, or it's been around since server 2000, and I have been in production environments where I have group policies that are 18 years old. Probably 15 years old, and because I don't know when exactly server 2000 came out. Although, did I play with it in college at all? I might have played with it in college a little bit here. So here, I'm going to back out of the magnifier here, and we'll go back here. If I go into CD, C:\\, I want sysvol, or is it under Windows? Sysvol, there we go. Sysvol, CD, UGN, Bobby's World. So if we go over here under the policies folder, this will also verify that we, that's right, I created a GPO. Okay, that's right, I created that GPO. So we have 3 group policies here. And if I go into the sysvol folder, this is where the actual nuts and bolts of your GPOs are stored. And your sysvol folder is, of course, a directory that is accessible, read-only access to everyone on your network. And most people aren't going to put it on your network. So the GPO we created, it's not linked anywhere, so you're not going to see it here in the default, linked anywhere in our domain or in our forest here. But if we go over here under group policy objects, these are where all of our group policies are stored, whether they're linked or unlinked. This is where they're all stored here. All right, so, oh my God, yes. These permissions, our group policy and the group processor, are inconsistent with those in Active Directory. It's recommended that these positions be consistent. To change the sysvol permissions in Active Directory, click OK. I kind of assumed that happened automatically, but I guess not. All right. So basically, that error message was Windows telling me that Oh, thank you. Yeah, GPM. I need to get that memorized here. MV34. Welcome to the stream again, MV34. And everyone else here to the stream. GP MC.MSC opens up your group policy window here again. And I just opened up a new one. But that way, it's in the transcript for this episode here. Are people going on the GitHub? For those of you in chat, I'm just curious. I'm going to keep updating it because it's kind of a nice reference for myself because I know I did that somewhere. But anyways here, so group policy. All right, so the error message that just popped up here is the permissions. It's saying here that the permissions for this GPO in the sysvol folder are inconsistent with those in Active Directory. It's recommended that they be consistent. I kind of assumed that they all were. So yeah, weird. I kind of assumed that would be a Windows default kind of a thing, but yeah. Anyways here, so we're going to go here. We're going to edit this group policy. It's going to pop up in the group policy edit window here. And again, this is one of those situations where it's open to you, to kind of, just follow how your domain, how your existing infrastructure is. Some people just, hey, this is the group policy for all desktops. This is the group policy for all these things. Other people like to create an individual group policy for each and every individual thing. I am of the latter camp. I like to create a group policy for each individual little thing that has its benefits. It has its disadvantages, like, like when computers have to go in and access group policy, especially if the link is kind of slow, they'll be like, oh my God, here, it might take them a while to update some group policies. But I find it easier to troubleshoot, and every production environment I've gotten my hands into, they've been more granular to some extent or another here. But now, so we're going to create a policy here, but we only want this policy here. So we're going to create a group policy here that sets the time server for our primary domain controller emulator here. Which is, am I going to have to, or is it under, I think it's under administrative templates. Yeah, Windows configuration. Let me expand this out here. Windows, there's a one that says Windows time. Windows error reporting. Hold on. Okay. All right. Instead of me fighting through this, anyone know where it's located in chat? I'm going to Google it here in a sec. I'm Googling it now. Windows time GPO. It's simple. A TechNet blog here. Oh yeah, actually, this is a good article here for it here that kind of explains here what to do. It's got a nice little of basically doing what we're doing here. So where is this? It is blah blah blah. System current or no, that's the registry setting. Administrative template system. Windows time. That's what I want. So how close was I? Administrative template. Oh, system. Not Windows component, system. I want to go into system. Okay. System, Windows time service here. Time providers. And so there are 3 settings here that we are going to configure. We're going to configure all of them actually here. So we're going to, because we want this to be, we want our primary domain controller emulator to be the time server for the rest of the network. So we're going to enable the Windows time server. We're going to enable the Windows time client because we want it to be a Windows time client. We want it to get time from somewhere here. And we're going to configure this here. So we're going to enable this here, and I always tend to type in the comment box here for any, it's a good habit to get into here. We are instead of setting the PDCE for primary domain controller emulator to get time from Navy Stratum 1 source for network timekeeping. All right, here. So again, this here basically says here under supported all. This basically means you can use this on any and all. This group policy will work on a Windows Server 2003 and up to XP Professional here. When I'm zoomed in like this, I lose my mouse. There we go here. So, all right. So we're going to use here. So we're going to, first of all here, we're going to get the server address that we want to use from the U.S. Naval Observatory here. Now, again, I'm sure on this Stratum 1 time server, along with a lot of Stratum 1 time servers, they don't want, like, Bob's home lab pinging it every 5 minutes. So I'm sure if they will rate limit you and block your IP address if they think you're abusing it here. So yeah, so basically here, we're going to use talk.usno.navy.mil simply because people will probably have a tendency to use the first one first, maybe. So we're creating a Stratum 2 time server in the Eastern United States here, so we're going to use this one here. So we're going to use talk.usno.navy.mil. And now I question myself, will this actually be able to copy? No, here. So it's talk.usno.navy.mil here. And this next component here, this is a flag. And does this do a good way of setting the flags here? It kind of does here. So if anyone in chat wants me to explain how flags work, let me know, because it's technical, but I'm assuming that most of us in here kind of know like bit operations. If not, let me know or comment in the video description below, and I'll gladly explain it here. So, but we're going to change this flag to 0x1 here. And again, anytime there's a 0x, that means we're doing hexadecimal here. But we are, let's see here, the possible values are 1, 0, and 2. And then setting this value to 0 indicates that the time clock should not attempt to synchronize time outside its site. Setting this value to 1 indicates that only computers that function as primary domain controller operation masters in other domains can use time, blah, 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 blah. Basically, is this a PDC emulator? Yes, this is a PDC emulator, so we're using this here. And we're going to change this to NTP because we're not... we're going to change this to NTP because we're pulling this directly from NTP. We're going to use NT5DS for everything else here. That is not how that works. That is the cross-site flag syncs here. This we're going to set to 1. This we want to set to 1 also. Does that web page explain it? Bit flags. Where did that go? Oops, that is... Where did that go? What web browser did I put that on? Or did I close it out? Oh, no, here it is. I moved it out of the window. No. Why? Of course not. And it says there it's using 0,9. All non-PDs should be set to NTD. I'm 99% certain that has to be set to 1. Thank you, Microsoft, for explaining in your settings why. Let's see, the value in the form of DNS name, flags, where flags is a hexadecimal bit mask of the flags for that host. For more information, see the NTP client group policy settings associated Windows time section of the Windows. Isn't that where we are? Of the NTP client group policy settings associated with Windows time section of Windows. Isn't that where we are? Anyways, okay, so I'm 99% sure that has to be at 0.1. Special polling interval. This is in seconds here. I get away with polling them once every 30 minutes. You definitely don't want to go like, I wouldn't go any lower than 15 minutes on any public PDC, or on any public Stratum one-time source. You just you want to be a good citizen of the internet. They're offering the service for free and everything here. And then event log flags is 0. We'll keep that here. I'm going to slow down the reactivity of my mouse here. Gaming mice. They're for more than just gaming here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to press OK on that. NTP client here. Just in case. No, we want that enabled. Why was that not enabled? So we're going to press OK in there here. So now we're going to... come on. Now maybe this is a little bit too slow. No happy medium. All right, so all these group policies here are set for enabled I'm just going to pop out of this zoomed in here. All of these group policy settings here are, my God, is this thing like running slow for whatever reason? Is it because I got Microsoft Emulator still running here? Save as. I'm just going to do from stream. I'll take a look at that later and see if there's parts of that that will serve us uploading to the GitHub page. Anyways, so okay, we've set our time provider here in the group management network editor. So we're closing that out, and that is not what we want. Did I close that out? Why did I close that out? All right, so now we need to apply this. But however, if we apply this to the domain controller organizational unit, it's going to set that setting for every domain controller, and we don't want to do that. We want to set it only for our primary domain controller emulator here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a WMI filter, and we're going to create a new WMI filter here. And basically, WMI works as a, it uses, what is it? It uses a syntax similar to SQL Server, to SQL syntax here. So we're going to do a git select star from win_32 computer system where domain role equals 5. And basically all that means is there's an integer value out there in the WMI that's called domain role. If it's the PDC emulator, it has domain role 5 here. So we're going to go ahead and add that here, and it's going to query the root of the WMI/CIM namespace there. Oh, I meant to add that to add that query. This is our select PDC from WMI_32 comp sys, and we'll type comp sys. There we go. So we'll save that. So we've got a new WMI filter in here. Now WMI is probably gotten most famous through PowerShell here, because what you can do is you can get WMI object, and if you run, if you use the tab here, query, this will run it on this computer. So, or no, the query is select star from win_32 computer system. And then we're going to select domain. Oh wait, blah. So we're just going to use that because we already told it to select star here. So bworld DC1 here. Oh, there we go. Again, PowerShell by default only spits out like basic information here. So if we spit out everything here from Win32 computer system here, you'll see that this is from domain controller 1. Should be Win32 computer system. Oh, I put the thank you. NV34 is always great at spotting my my typos. So we'll edit that Win32 computer system. There we go. Thank you, NV34. And if we go over here under, there should be something here called domain role. Domain role, this is 4. Okay, so domain role 4 basically means that it is a domain controller here. If I added a computer name here to this and did Orion, domain role for Orion is going to be even less. It's going to even be a smaller number. Domain role is 3, which means that it is a domain member. And then 2, I think, is just member of a work group. But don't quote me on that. But if I did this for, if we did this for bworld-dc, I'm just going to start typing slower. That's what I told myself I'd do. If we did bworld.dco3, its domain role is 5. So we go back to the group policy editor here. We open up on the main screen here for this particular group policy here. You've got this thing here down at the bottom here. You can use security filtering. So we could have done add, and we could have just only told it to apply it to bworld-dc03, and that would have worked. But what if the domain controller role gets moved? What if the one but what if the domain controller gets moved? Or excuse me, what if the role for primary domain if the role of primary domain controller emulator gets moved? Kind of a thing. So you want so if we use WMI filtering, it can allow your group policy to be a little bit more dynamic here. So at the very bottom here, you've got this thing here called WMI group filtering, and why is that group policy not available? Does this have to be made like GPOs that are linked to this GPO filter? Does it not have access to it? Why can I not select this? I have to hit like F5 to refresh. All right, we're just going to add we'd like to change the WMI filter. Yeah, sure. Open. Oh, I never named it. That was the problem. That was I never named it. So okay, all right. I should have named my WMI filter here. So we'll just call this PDC Emulator here. All right, I never named it, so that was my confusion. All right. Yes, thank you, NV34. The lag on the stream is just enough. Is setting WMI filters difficult to do in PowerShell since you're doing it in the GUI? I thought it would just be faster and easier. I don't do much with GPOs in Git. I think I don't do much with GPOs in PowerShell, so because it's like I said earlier, it's kind of limited here. But I think there is a command. Oh, module group. I'm going to type slower here. I think there is set GPO permissions. I thought there was one. There's set GPO link. Is it under get GPO permissions? Let's see here. Get GPO. Right? It's get GP. Get GP permission. Name. What did I name this here? Time dash NTP for PDC here. permission level cannot be retrieved because these are blah, 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 blah. So let's see. Let's here get GPO name time dash NTP for PDC. Actually, it looks like you can set it through. You'd probably have to. Let's see here. How would you set that WMI filter? I don't see a GP, a group policy command here. Is that even editable? Let's see here. WMI filter. No, it's settable in PowerShell. But how would I create a group? I'd have to look into that. I definitely have to look into that. Let's see here. Actually, here let's just do git command, and then we'll do a GP. Let's see if there's a group policy command here for WMI filter. No. Let's just do filter. And we get a bunch of stuff for firewalls. There should be a bunch of stuff for WMI. Let's see here. Oh, look at that! It even shows your aliases here. Get WMI object, invoke WMI method, register WMI event, set WMI instance. Yeah, I'm not. I'd have to look into that more to see if we were if you can of how much you can do this by PowerShell here. But what I can do here, since we have that filter available here, so let's see here. Actually, what type was that? Was that just a string? WMI filter. Okay, so there is, so there is an object here called Microsoft Group Policy.WMI filter here. So let's go. We can do this. Oh, actually, here's another thing I need to get into to using here. -OV stands for out variable. And so if there's an output for a particular commandlet, do -OV or -out variable, saves it to a variable that you name here. So we can do time GPO .WMI filter. And so, yeah, let's see here. The WMI filter looks like it's all let's see here. Actually, if I do select star, that is everything. That is everything. All those three objects here. So here we'll do format list property star. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, let's see here. And the rest of these are just, you've got security info is a group policy GP permission object. And then its path is just a string that points to somfilter.id. Yeah, it just looks like it's pointing to an Active Directory path here. But yeah, so yeah, this could get us down a rabbit hole here if I'm trying to set these here by PowerShell here. But you kind of follow the logic of how I researched all this here. So like I went up here, I did git member on the group policy object here, wherever that was, wherever I did that here. Yeah, so I can do time GPO. I did git member on it here. The member of WMI filter here is an object called WMI filter here. So that means there is existing stuff for that we can that we can easily access in the .NET framework. So that means if I can pipe it to, so you can pipe the WMI filter further into get member. I shouldn't WMI. Okay, type slower, Rob. Type slower. WMI filter. And we can pipe that to get member. You must specify. Oh. What? Time GPO. Is it wanting to be case sensitive all of a sudden here? .WMI. Oh, God, I misspelled filter. All right. And then you can just keep kind of like piping it in here. So like there's an object here called Microsoft Group Policy Group GP Permission Collection. And you can keep kind of narrowing this down here. And you can even like Google group policy member here. Google that. You'll get like the .NET framework definition for Microsoft Group, for this particular object name here. If you threw that in Google or Bing, although plenty of tests have shown that Google is a lot better at pulling stuff from Microsoft documentation than Bing. Maybe if like Bing, anyways, I'm not going to get into that here. So yeah, you're kind of getting into like really deep. I mean, not really deep PowerShell stuff. This is just kind of creating an object. So to create like just a pure .NET object, you type it up and put it in brackets and everything like that. And we'll get into, we'll probably have to do that at some point in time here. But I think that's enough diversion for now here. So anyways, here we're setting our time GPO. And we'll do this through PowerShell because there is the command here. Group policy that says set GP link. So we actually already have our time GPO here as an actual variable here. So we can do set GP link. And what's it going to need? It's going to need, let's see here. It's going to need a target. It's going to need to know whether or not we are enabling it, whether or not we want to enforce it. So basically, an enforced GPO is automatically taken to the top of like the GPO list of of how you're applying it. It's like like if you're a domain admin and you've got several other admins who might have full access to like other organizational units in your organization, and you want to make sure they don't overwrite a particular GPO, it's when you would use the enforced command here. Let's see here, but it wants set GP link. It wants the GUID of the group policy and the target. So let's get AD organizational unit, and then what I want LDAP filter where name equals star domain controller, right? That's how we're going to try to attempt this in PowerShell. Will that work? It didn't like that. What's the name of our, oh, it's just domain, is that what I did, domain controllers? Or did I put a space after that? I don't think I did. Oh, you know what? This has to be in like, it has to be like in parentheses or something. I'm awful with LDAP filters and stuff. But I was practicing this the other day at work. I swear I did. Hold on. AD. Organizational unit. Hold on. There's an LDAP filter example here. I'm forgetting something here. Oh, you know what I forgot to do here? Okay, I forgot to... Yeah, okay, all right. For some reason, you have to put this in parentheses. That's what I forgot. And this... Right, yeah, I have to put this in parentheses. And it still didn't return anything. Domain. I have to give it a search base. Let me see if I have to give it a search base. See, I tried not to, like, you know, struggle like this with the with the LDAP stuff on stream here. Search base. Let's see here. Domain component equals UGN, comma domain component equals Bobby's World, comma domain component equals org. Domain component. Oh, I misspelled UGN. So, all right. Okay. I'm just going to freaking, since the GUI is open here, right click, link an existing GPO. And we're going to link that one because I still got one more. I got two more GPOs that we're going to do there. So now we can go in here. What is it? It is invoke GP update. So now we can use the command invoke GP update, computer name, bworld-DC03. Now, when you're doing invoke computer update or invoke GP update and you specify a computer, it's only going to do that for the computer section of the group policy. No, I need a better spell checker, NV34. I need a better spell checker because I'm typing too fast on this. There's apparently, like, the part of my brain that, like, types and talks. I have to create more of a neural split between the two here. So I just need to type faster or slower. I think what's going on here. All right, so we invoked GP update on bworld DC03. Which is it's the equivalent of doing GP update. By the way, don't invoke command GP update force over your entire network, because then half your users will get a black screen that pops up, and you'll get 50 emails saying, "What's this black screen that just popped up on my computer?" Don't do that. I did this one time, invoke command, because I was troubleshooting some group policy thing. I did something like computer name, get AD computer star, and because I was just troubleshooting this, and let's see, this is what I did. Script block, GP update / force on every machine in my domain. And a bunch of people got that black box that pops up and saying, you're going to have to log out for these group policies to take effect. And yeah, that was not fun. So learn from Robbie's mistakes. Don't do what Robbie does. So we did that here. So now let's see here. We're going to do invoke. We're going to do invoke command. Maximize this here so people get a better sight of it here. Computer name, bworld DC03. And then our script block is going to be W32TM query / status, and we'll add a verbose at the end also. And end that script block. All right, so this is now calling itself, it's still calling itself a Stratum one-time server. It should stay, and it's still getting it by, it's still getting it from Active Directory, or still getting it from that. Did this group policy? Domain controllers should update group policy. I think it's like every 5 minutes or something here. So let's troubleshoot this here. We're going to actually go in here to World DC03. We're going to actually go into there, and then it's CD HKLM for HK local machine. And what is the time? There, so we've got software, we've got Microsoft, Windows, current version, date time. Let's see here. It has not invoked GP update. Let's see here. Another thing that I should point out here, if you do GP update force on someone else's computer, and you're remoted in as them, or excuse me, and you're remoted in through like a PS session like this, or if you're on their computer and you right-click Run as Administrator, you will only update the GP settings, the group policy settings, for your own user. So if you're troubleshooting group policy updates for a particular user, make sure you run the GP update command as them. All right, so it updated that. So when you run GP update force, it basically re-downloads every single group policy that applies to it from the domain controller and overwrites it and creates a fresh little set here. So let's W32TM query status. Is this, do I have to shut? Let's see here. Do I have to settings, integration services? We're going to turn time synchronization off. Maybe that's why. And maybe we'll have to turn, we don't have to turn time synchronization off on the rest of them because we'll apply a further group policy here. So GP update. No, not GP update, query GP. Let's do GP update. And it's thinking, it's downloading group policies. Am I actually causing stress on this? Not really. This guy's only using 3 megs, or 900 megabytes of RAM. The CPU usage isn't even like hitting a percent. All right, now, why are you still doing that? So I have to restart the VM in order for that setting to turn off. Let's see here, GP result V. Git command is a group policy. I don't think the group policy module is installed on here. Group policy module. Yeah. Let's see here if it'll take a minute here to do that. Yes. Probably because this is a core server, it didn't install the group policy command lid here. Yeah, NV34. That's what I'm thinking is the problem here. I'm surprised it's doing well. I mean, I'm not surprised. So while this is thinking and downloading here, we're going to pop back open here to our group policy manager here, and we're going to create another group policy object here, and we'll do it in PowerShell here just to redo the PowerShell command here. Let's open up another PowerShell window. All that's doing its thing here. And new GPO, and its name is going to be time dash network time. Now we'll call this domain time settings. So that's actually we'll call it domain time sync. That's definitely much more of a more specific name for this GPO here. All right, so we created that, and same methodology as before here. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. We're going to refresh here, and we're going to edit this group policy. And we're going to go into policies, Windows settings. Or was it? No, it was not Windows settings. Administrative templates, system. This is one of the reasons why I really don't like the way Microsoft tests people. It's like, where would you find the group policy for time? And it gives you a whole bunch of things where it sounds like it logically could be. I don't know. Has anyone ever taken a Microsoft exam? This is the thing about Microsoft exams that just drives me nuts. I'm gonna memorize this group policy setting for something that I'm gonna get figure once and then hopefully not have to worry about for a while here. So we're going to enable this here. The big difference here is we're going to keep this here at ND 5DS here, and we'll drop this down here to 900 seconds, so once every 15 minutes. And our NTP server, which we're going to keep the flag at 9 here. And our NTP server is going to be bworld.dc-03. We'll even use UGN dot actually here we will make this even more dynamic here. So I would normally do this through PowerShell, but I'm going to do this quickly since this just popped up in my head here. We're in the event that domain controller 3 ever does no longer becomes the DNS server, or excuse me, in the event domain controller 3 no longer becomes the primary domain controller emulator, we're going to create a DNS record here. So Windows Administrative Tools, there's just the DNS editor here, DNS. And so I'm just going to create under forward lookup zones here, under UGN Bobby's World here, I am just going to create here a quick little A record here. for new host or 88 record here. So we want time. We'll just call this time server.ugn.bobby'sworld.com here. And then right now, or you know what, for the time being here. Well, no, here we're going to create a new CNAME record here. So we're going to do time server, and then this is going to be a bworld WORLD. Do I still have magnifier open here? This is what I'm doing here. We'll move magnifier up here. So we're going to do bworld-dc03.bobby'sworld. I forgot the UGN. .ugn.org. And actually, what I would normally do is I would normally create something one more level up. So I just create timeserver.bobby'sworld.org and have it point to this guy. But like I said, I'm just doing this as kind of like a quick, as kind of a quick thing here. And then I should have, for time server, I should have a CNAME here. So that way, if we ever change our primary domain controller, we just have to update DNS. As actually, I wonder if we go under here, under, was it TCP LDAP? I thought maybe there might be a DNS setting in here for the primary domain controller, and I'm not seeing it here. So anyways, so we're going to do again here timeserver.ugn.bobby'sworld.org. We're going to keep it here to NT5DS. Basically what NT5DS means is it means use the standard domain controller hierarchy. So that means domain controllers, all of the domain controllers are going to get their time from the primary domain controller. Everything else on the domain is going to get it from the domain controller of its choice. So we will keep that to that. And we will click OK here. And then I will turn off the zoom in. And in this case, we want the NTP client here enabled. We really don't need to filter this at all. Because basically of how group policy works here. So we're going to put this here. We're going to put this in the, we're going to link this in the domain root. So there's our group policy. We can close DNS here. So we are going to link this here at the root of the domain, link an existing GPO, and domain timesync. So we're going to link that one there, and basically what will happen here is, of course, the more restrictive, the more fine-grained a GPO is. So the deeper in the structure it is, the higher rank it gets here. So if I go here to domain, if I click on the domain controllers folder here, or organizational unit, and I zoom in here, so here's all the linked group policy objects here. The default domain controllers here. If I click here under group policy inheritance, this is the order in which things are going to be applied here, or excuse me, the precedence of it here. It actually gets applied in reverse order here. So it's going to pull in domain timesync. It's going to pull in the default domain policy. The other domain controllers that aren't the primary domain controllers, they're not going to apply this because of the WMI filter we installed. Then it'll go in and it'll apply the default domain controller policy. And since And so all the domain controllers will get will get their time sync from this one. The primary domain controller will get the time sync for this one because this will overwrite those settings. And again, this is how group policy can get a mess, because if I right-click this guy and click Enforce, then that will basically take this and take this guy and bring it all the way up to the top here. And then you can even kind of, within that OU, you can change the link order. So I can give this guy more precedence over the default domain controller policy in case there's a default time setting in the domain controller policy for whatever reason here. So boom, now this is going to be the top precedence GPO. All right, so let's see if our domain controllers have updated here. And it was get packet no match was found. Blah 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 blah. So it really didn't like that here. Let's see if for some reason here it still thinks it's getting it from the domain or from the Hyper-V host here. So first of all, let's GP result for both. I don't have very many group policies here, so it's not going to spit out a whole lot here. So we're going to scroll all the way up to the top here. Let's see here. So yeah, so apply group policy objects here. NTP for, so it's applying that GPO. We know that it is not, we know that it is, so we know that something else is overriding that here. So what I'm going to do is, since I turned that setting off in Hyper-V, I turned off the time synchronization and I hit apply. I'm just going to restart this domain controller and maybe that'll fix it. And we'll just exit, even though it did nothing here. So while that is restarting here, we're going to solve, oh wow, we're hitting 2 hours here on domain controller time. I hope all of you are enjoying this for domain controller time. I really hope you did. I really hope you are. And you know, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's nice to know there are other people who kind of enjoy this kind of stuff like I do. Like, I love playing with this stuff. You know, it's great to have an environment where I can play with this and not have to worry about borking an entire company's domain, which is good. Anyways, here, group policies. So, if you're a Linux person, this is CD:/. If you're a Linux person, you might be familiar with tilde basically sending you to your root profile, and it does that. And in PowerShell, it does that here too. So there's a lot of Linux aliasing that they added here. So as I said at the very beginning of our stream, if you're just joining us, Primary Domain Controller 2 is a global catalog server. It's also the infrastructure master, which is bad if we ever add any other additional domains here. So I went through, I actually kind of went down a rabbit hole here of basically, you know, I researched on a couple websites and I did some other further research. I went through and researched how this, how the domain knows what its global catalog servers are here. And there is a setting in the particular domain controller here. So if I get AD domain controller and do bworld DCO2, there is this setting here called NTDS setting object distinguished named here. Okay, and that points to an actual Active Directory distinguished name in the settings here. There's a nice little tool here. There's two tools here. There's the one that comes with Active Directory called LDS, or not LDS. Is it LDS? No, it's it's SLD. SL DAP? I thought it was LDS. Anyways, it's an awful tool. It's really awful here. What I did is I downloaded from the sysinternals website here, which is a group of software that Microsoft bought and made available here. Their Active Directory Explorer, much better than is it LSDL? Someone in chat will know. It's awful for kind of exploring Active Directory. It's awful in my opinion. So anyways, here, moving along. I've minimized my chat here. There we go. But you can explore your Active Directory and every little items in here, and you can make kind of like GUI-based changes here. And if you're just kind of like want to explore it and figure out what's stored where and how it's organized and everything, it's a great tool and everything. And of course, it crashed on me, which is the first time I've ever seen that. Anyways, here. So this is pointing to a particular. This is pointing to a particular group policy here. So we're just going to out variable this to DC03 here. And so what I can do here is I can do get AD object, and so we can bring in DC03 and tell it to use the NTDS setting object DN. Did I call it DC3? Is that no? I had DC03 here. Hold on, DC03. Let me just spit that out so it loads the member variables in memory here. Get AD object NTDS settings. Why am I not liking this? 03.ntds settings object distinguished name. There it goes. Okay. Spelling for the win. All right, and then we're just going to format list and tell it properties star here. So this is actually pointing to a different section of the Active Directory. It is actually pointing into the settings, where like all of like the stuff that you really don't want to mess with here. And it is and it is this object here that is named NTDSA here. And so if we go into our documentation here and look up the NTDSA object. Let me spell it correctly here. NTDSA. All right, here. So our Active Directory documentation here is basically says here, it's going to point us over here. This is what I want here. The NTDSA object. Each domain controller in a forest has this object in the config naming context. See the requirements in this particular section here. An NTDSA object has the following attributes here. And one of the things here is this option setting here. So if I go back into this, actually, again, one of the things about the Active Directory commandlets is you have to tell it that you want all properties in your actual object here. So yeah, this is all objects here. There is an options object here. So now we can go here. Oops, actually, that's actually out variable that to our ntds settings. There we go. So if we go ntds settings, options, it says that the options that we have in there is 1. My camera is, thank you, Mr. Magoo. You know what? We'll just move that into the upper right. There we go. So yeah, all it is returning the single number 1 here. All right, so we want to change that. So that is basically, if we go back in here, the options is another bit flag, which is explained right here in the Active Directory a technical manual here, the Active Directory template. I forget what the S stands for, or Active Directory Technical Supplement or whatever here. But so so if you're creating some sort of Active Directory application, you wanted to see which was the global catalog servers here, this particular flag here is what you want to look for here. Now, so basically the thing that tells us that DC02, actually now that I think about it, the DC02 is a global catalog, is this single bit here. That's the only thing here that makes this domain controller a global catalog, in addition to some some DNS entries that we'll have to remove too here. So again, if you're kind of making a change to Active Directory that you're worried about kind of like borking the entire Active Directory setup for, and in a future stream here, I'm 90% certain I have a Veeam license that I can use, like a real full-on Veeam license that I can use. So in a future stream here coming up very soon, actually I might wind up doing that next, actually. Because I'm going to add, I wanted to add some users to this because I'm tired of using the administrator credential, and I want to use a kind of anyways, I'm just tired of using the administrator credential for this. So, what was I getting at here? So anyway, so normally if you're wanting to if you're going to foobar all of the, if you're worried that you're really going to foobar Active Directory, all right, you shut down all your domain controllers except for one. Okay, the one that you're going to make the change on. You shut down all your domain controllers. You take a snapshot of this domain controller, or you make sure you have a full backup available here, because once I make this change, it's going to replicate to every other domain controller out there on the network. This is going to be my famous last words here. I am fairly confident that this is going to work here. Because like I'm basically going to change this to a 1 here. So for example, if I looked up if we look this up on bworld on domain controller 3, this option would be set to 0. Now, if I change the GUID, that would really mess things up here. So we're going to do here set AD object, and our AD object is going to be our NTSD settings, NTDS settings. That's the object that we're changing. You know what? Let's Let's look up the man page for this here real quick here. Identity, AD object, the variable we're using is an AD object. PS credential, we don't have to worry about credentials. Display name, partition, pass-through, protected from accidental deletion. Is this not the command I want? That's the time stuff. Hold on, where'd my notes go? Where did my notes go? Today. Set AD object. This is the command I want here. Except we want to change that to a 0. All right, so that's the command that I want. And so let's pop back up here. Set AD object. NTDS settings. Identity, or no, that's we don't want the identity command here. And so we're going to replace, and then the little @ symbol here, options equals, open quote, 0, end quote. Cannot array list. Is it an array? What type does it think it is? No, it's an no, it seems it's an AD object here. So 0? There we go. All right. So if I pull this guy back, all right, so we set that. No problem. And so that's being replicated to the rest of the domain controllers here. So what I had to do here is, it for some reason thought earlier that this was an array of items, so I just told it to select the first item in the array here. If you're kind of confused as to what that was here. Yeah, I know. I tried to do remove, not replace. Okay, all right. Thanks, NV34. You must do a lot of like Active Directory stuff, because you've got all this stuff like memorized, it seems, or type out MDNS stuff, or type out those distinguished names a lot. They have more practice than I do. Anyways, here, so our options flag is still set to 1. Why is that? Oh, I did remove. Replace. Was the original? Yeah, no, the one was originally replaced there. All right. Why is that not working? Why can't I change that? So DCO2 is equal to get AD domain controller, just to make sure that my variables didn't go stale on me here. bworld DCO2. Oh, yep, hold on. So let's, NTDS settings is equal to get AD object, DCO2.ntds settings object dn. Nope. Properties star. Options 0. OK, all right. I think we just had an issue of a stale variable there. All right, so now if I do actually, I wonder, I didn't even check that. DCO2 is global catalog is now false. However, I doubt this happened. I'd kind of be impressed if it did. If we go back into our DNS manager, and let's see if the global catalog settings are still there. So if we go into here, into forward lookup zones, so if we go into TCP, wow, no, it updated that. Look at that. It updated DNS. That is cool. I'm impressed. I thought we were going to have to go in and change these. So yeah, our global catalog has been removed there. Let's go into sites, Chicago. Yeah, only one global catalog. All right, wow. Go Windows. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So yeah, it updated DNS for us right there. All right, so let's see here. We rebooted, going back to DCO3 here. Oh, God. That's been restarted. Let's see, W32TM, query, status. It is still not picking that up. Why? All of my ones on, my production PCs on Hyper-V picked it up, Windows. It says source local CMOS clock now. So that means it thinks it's getting it from its hardware in the virtual machine. I'll have to troubleshoot that from now. Thank you. By the way, like bash ps, you can do Control R. Control plus R. What's Control plus R do? Am I going to learn something new here? Block I search. What does that do? Failed. Oh! Oh! That is cool! That is cool. Look at that. I learned something new here. So you can, for all of your up commands, I didn't even know you could do this on Linux. Or on Bash. This just shows how much I use Linux. So you press Control R. You can search all of your commands here that, there's where I misspelled B word previously. That is cool. I see, we all learned something there. Thanks, NV34. Yeah, so that was Control plus R. I will have to troubleshoot this some more off stream. It's because, let's see here, because we turned the time settings off, it shouldn't be getting time from it unless that flag is wrong on unless that flag is wrong. Let me see if I can Google this real quick here. Unless that flag is wrong on the group policy setting. Let's see here. 0/1 is use the special pull interval. Use only as fallback. So these are what, so I'm referencing here. I'm wondering if, so on my group policy here for the primary domain controller, oops, I'm going to go into edit. So I go into edit here, policies, Windows, settings, or no, administrative templates, system, Windows time service. I'm referring to this flag right here. So if I move this here on the stream here, 0/1 is use the special pull interval. A flag of 2 uses fallback only. 3 is symmetric active. Let's see here. Did I get the time server right? Did I get the time server right? It is talk.usno. Where's my other set of, not that, hacking client. usno.navy.mil, usno, talk.usno.navy.mil, ntpv for primary, usno master, hcommand, cross. So yeah, use special polling interval. That's what we did. Uses fallback only. We don't want to do that. Symmetric active. Hold on, so I'm providing another link here. Another TechNet article. Making the NTP server flag 09, we made a client and special interval. We're making this special note here on initial sync. Blah, blah, blah. Now let me put this here so you guys can see what the heck I'm troubleshooting here. Which I know is exciting here. You can do Control R again to search backwards through matches. That's crazy. That is crazy here. Let's see here. Now the PDC emulator has 2 sources to pull from a client. Oh, should it have been 0,9? Cancel. I don't want to download the image. Maybe that should have been 9. And that was 1. Those were the sync flags I was getting mixed up with, maybe. Okay, so let's pop back open PowerShell here. Wow, we are going 2 hours, 15 minutes. Yeah, that's probably what I needed to do, set the bit flag for 8 as client. But I was thinking client only. So, let's do... yeah, I don't think the group policy commands are installed on DC03. Anyways here, so we'll just do GP, not result, GP update. Is /all or no? I just want GP update, and I saved that group policy, right? That group policy edit, I saved it. Yeah. And I think that was the problem. Yeah, the flag there. Okay, so secondary reference. Stratum 2 is the secondary reference synced by time. Okay, all right. So, and last successful time sync was at 10:16 a.m. Hold on, get time zone. Is this still? Oh, this thing is in the Pacific time zone. Not the end of the world. We'll fix that at a later stream here. All right. That's going to be it for the stream here. Wednesday, I set my next stream for Wednesday earlier in the afternoon than 8:30 Central. So hopefully more people can listen, can show up, and partake here. But seriously, for all of you who have been part of this, thank you. For those of you who have been streaming along with this here, thank you for sometimes putting up with errors. Because that's in the real world, you're gonna forget the sync flag, or forget the client flag and everything like that. So, but anyways, thank you all for watching. Like I said, last episode I hope to have on YouTube really soon. I got to do some editing to it to cut some stupidity out. But otherwise, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, again, comment on the video. You can tweet to me at Don't Panic Rob, and do the whole subscribe thing on the YouTube channel here. Let me even give you the YouTube channel link here, which I need to add it to the front page of the channel here in the bottom here. Also, watch out for this for running on a VM. Yeah. There's my YouTube link. Like I said, last week's video will be up there sooner rather than later. Oh, I have a thing to get to today too. Anyways, so there's that. You can tweet to me at Don't Panic Rob. I've got some lists. Not sure about VMware, but Hyper-V will mess with the time. VMware does too. I think though this group, I think the problem all along was that I had that flag set wrong. I think that was the problem I had all along. But hopefully now everything in my domain is going to get synced in a very similar way, and everything like that. I created some lists of people, of some cool computer people and other people that I follow on Twitter. One of them is on my Twitter page. OBS got buried here. There's my Twitter. Let me turn GitHub off. One of them is the guy who created PowerShell. So he's always talking and bragging about new stuff from PowerShell. So he's a good person to follow. I've got a couple security people from I've got a couple security people from Microsoft on there too. Some other good Microsoft developers, and then I got a bunch of network security people there, including if you're not following Swift on security and you're a Windows person, that is Taylor Swift. is kind of like an anonymized Windows computer person. He got started out like in desktop and just kind of like, through years of playing with stuff and configuring stuff and dealing with a bunch of crazy end users, he has a lot of great stuff on his blogs and stuff like that. In fact, like IBM has recommended some of his stuff for configuring stuff. So check out all that out. And of course, the YouTube page, everything else, like, subscribe, ring bells, all the other stuff I'm forgetting to mention. Thank you all for watching. I got to wrap a birthday present for a birthday party coming up. Thanks. Bye-bye.